So Richard, you've had a, a pretty long journey now as a coach as well, at some pretty decent places in Indian football. You know, all the way from Tata Football Academy, the BFC role that you had, and obviously building the whole ecosystem with FCBU that you were doing. Uh, you know, when we look at the new, the new era of Indian coaches who are coming in, especially at the grassroots level, the ones who want to enter the sport for the first time, a lot of them, like you said, are interacting with. They're watching the Premier League, they're watching the Bundesliga. They've grown up seeing the glam around that, and they believe, yeah, that's the glam is what really brings them into coaching originally, right? But how about you talk a little bit to us about what the reality of being a football coach is at the highest level.
Now, I'll start with what happened with my first job. So it was with it's FC Madras now, but back then it was Mahogany FC. So we are talking about picking up scrap construction material and making hurdles out of them. I mean, like bending it into shape to make those agility hurdles and things, getting pieces of wood, tying it to a rope. And I mean, we thought that was coaching, right? Because we'd seen all these videos and all of that. So we have to have hurdles and things. It wasn't available also, as in within the marketplace and stuff. It was difficult to get hold of. So, I mean, if talking about struggles, that was one part of it. When I'd gone to Vasco Sports Club, this guy Kannan, who's now assistant of the India under 16 team with Vivian, every single day, 24 footballs over here, your cones and markers here, hand pump, and he's riding the bike. So like when all these people say India is crazy, their love for Goans love for football and all that,
That's the
like
photo
tourists and
that's
things, like
used
they would
always.
pick up on it and things. So I mean, I mean, if you're talking about at the highest level, it's one bit, but you have to put in the time. So like for example, Vasco Sports Club, it was head coaching under 14, under 16, under 18, under 20, and the Chocolate College girls team and men's team within, like, let's say you'd clock in about 3 to 4 hours of, more than 10 hours of coaching every 2 days, because you have to just go from one age group to another. So he does the warm up, I come and join, and I do the warm up, he comes in and join the things in different parts of the pitch. And just two of us sort of handling that volume of players. So I mean, the whole glamour part of it, I knew from the first job actually, the one in with Mahogany, that it's not going to be from, like, let's say 2 years over here and then maybe West Ham or Liverpool is going to come calling.
With the sexy suit.
Yeah, but I mean, just because all the track suits now, I mean,
Yeah.
all of that. So the reality is that you have to. I mean, it's not easy at all. It's going to get even more competitive now because you have more people getting licenses than ever before. So when I'd done my licenses in India, at the time you had to have been an ex-player who played in the Santosh Trophy or
Yeah.
NFL. Otherwise, you don't get place in your D license even. So I had to go across to Singapore to complete a whole bulk of it. So my sister was working there as a chef. Fortunately, it paid the fees and whatever emails and all of that to just get access to training courses. It counted a lot. And we're talking about reality at the senior level as well. I mean, it's great. Like we have these sound bites. We get a little bit of attention when we play important tournaments like the qualifiers and Durand Cup. It looks all good and things, but I've been very fortunate one to have great people around me. Gurmangi Singh, who's amongst the most cap players in Indian football, I mean, has been amongst the more important players to come through. And then Chelston, again, with his strength and conditioning background, it becomes very important to have good people around you and then fight for them. As in, it's not really getting just getting your contract sorted out and things. So, I mean, the struggle initially was to sort of get people around you, and many people think that they can go it alone. That is, I don't need these experts behind me. I know enough about conditioning. I know enough about what it takes to manage a dressing room, and maybe this whole lack of self-awareness, and then this expectation that it's going to click tomorrow. I'm going to get that big contract tomorrow. I mean, like I've struggled over here. So a big mistake, or let's just say a bit of advice is the amount of time you put in, the amount of let's say effort you put in, has got absolutely no relation with how much the third person watching you values it. The minute you start to feel that I've done so much XYZ, this is just around the corner, people are going to start appreciating me. It very rarely is the case. The minute you feel that there are so many eyeballs on you, people are going to tune in and listen to me, and you start to post your newspaper cutouts on social media thinking like people will notice. It very rarely works that way, because it is intensely political, securing a job anywhere. I mean, like forget about Indian football. Anywhere that happens, and then you need to prove your competency. So let's just say the entrance skills, as long as you're working at the lower levels, be very, very diligent about, let's say, getting your fundamentals and basics in place. I mean, don't go into like, let's say, elaborate and extensive understanding of tactics and training sessions, thinking that what's happening on YouTube is going to like sort of unfold tomorrow, and that's going to defy your coaching success. So I mean, the time and let's say self-awareness that you need to build before the big job comes is probably what's going to dictate what keeps you there. So even at what I mean, even I League level is not as glamorous as people think it is. I mean, it's the cameras that make you look good on the sideline when you're screaming and things. But let's just say ground realities of how many clubs have their own training facilities. How many times you have to show up there and somebody else is training there already. Many times you have to fight with clubs for basic things like cones, markers, balls. I'm not saying it's happened in the recent past, but in the initial jobs, those are the struggles that genuinely sort of faced us. So I mean, like we keep saying, like don't kill the dream and things, but again we need to highlight the realities of the job as well. I mean, at the elite youth level, regardless of what the organization is, you need to be accountable for the time that you're putting into the job. And minute you deliver results for whatever reason it may be, let's say it's developing good players, delivering results on the points table, the sort of football that you play looks good, need to sort of keep that closer to your heart, because minute you start attributing too much of emotion or expectations to what you're producing, and you see that maybe your boss, the person that you're pitching the job to, they don't see any value in it, then that's the first point where you start to fall out of love with the profession itself. So having these things in place, your ideals, the intent with which why you've started on the coaching journey, you need to sort of keep that to yourself and let other people talk about you, rather than maybe sort of highlighting and expecting people to notice you, because it's, unless you're at a very, very high level working with high profile players, it gets really difficult to get noticed.
Correct. And one of the points you said was the exact same thing that our first guest on the podcast, Ariel Jacobs, who was Anderlecht's manager for a few years in the late 2000s, he mentioned this, that again, it's when you're winning, you know, everything is amazing, and but that's the point where you need to be like super careful and super alert that things could go wrong as well. And you know, that's, I think the top managers know that moment and how to manage that. Thanks for listening in. So much to learn and so much to absorb from that episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Catch us again on the DPDL Talent Development Podcast as we bring to you another episode with a leading expert. Until then, we'd love to hear from you. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or shoot us an email at developmentleague@doublepass.com.